This is The Wizard of Oz by Cadaco. Now, this game is from 1974, and it has to be one of the biggest movie tie-in cash grab products that I have ever seen. I thought this was hilarious, and I figured we should dive in and take a look. So, let's get started right away with the box and cover art. Now, we all recognize this classic frame from the movie The Wizard of Oz. However, this has been painted over with kind of an oil paint motif, which I think is actually very attractive. And the yellow packaging is extremely eye-catching. Of course, the text here for the titling very much looks like the 1939 film, so wonderful detail there. When we flip it over, the back of the box does feature the instructions for the game, which I am such a huge fan of any game that prints the rules on the box anywhere. So regardless of the quality of this game, how The Wizard of Oz by Cadaco handled the rules pleases the couch. When we open this box up, and it is a two-part lift-off top box, inside there's a little bit of a cardboard space saver that acts as an organizer. So it keeps the board to one side. You can lift out the other cardboard insert that has some Cadaco branding and a little bit of text there and place the pawns underneath. The spinner can sit right on top of the folded board, so everything stows safely and neatly in this box. Now, let's hop over to the game itself. Now, this is a very simple game. It's played with 4 pawns, 4 magic cards, which are just little like 2-inch or 3 centimeter by 3 centimeter, 2-inch by 2-inch square cardboard pieces with portraits of the actors. You've got Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. And then you have this little spinner here. Now, the spinner is numbered 1 through 4 with the 5th space saying magic card. So the magic cards are important to the game. What's going to happen is players are going to navigate from start all the way through the Land of Oz back to home. And the winning player is the player who lands on home with a magic card in their possession. Now, throughout the game, players will win and lose magic cards by sheer random chance. Either they will land on one of these spaces that has an M, and if they don't have a magic card, they collect one. If they do, they have to put it back. Same thing with if they spin to move and the spinner lands on magic card. If they don't currently have one, they get to draw one. If they do have one, they have to put it back. So throughout the game, players are constantly drawing and giving back a magic card, which is why there's no significance. No one character is better than the other. It just simply acts as a tracking token, basically for your victory parameter there. Throughout their journey, they're also going to run across spaces that will help them out, like jump them ahead 3, or spaces that'll hurt them, like making them go back 5, or even all the way back to start. As they make their way around the board, there will be little sections that have painted vignettes from the movie, along with little blurbs telling you basically like what chapter of the film you're in. Now, this is the part that really starts to drive me nuts. First off, there's supposedly no strategy to the game, but there is a small amount of strategy, and it comes into play right here. You get to make one key decision in the game, and this is where I first really started scrutinizing the whole story, because right away when I was playing it, the tornado, or how they put it here, cyclone, lifts Dorothy Gale's house up and flies it all the way to Oz. Dorothy wakes up in Oz and meets Glenda, the good witch, and the Munchkins here, then goes off on her journey to the Yellow Brick Road. They skip over her individually meeting the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, and just jump right to where the image is from where they're in the poppy field nonetheless, but they're on their journey to the Emerald City. Now, when you get here, you get to make a decision. You can choose a longer, easier, safer route, which means there are less setbacks in this route. So there are more spaces, but fewer spaces you can land on that'll set you back. Or you can take the riskier, shorter route across the map, and there are more spaces that'll set you back. This is where the only space in the game that'll set you back all the way to home is located right here at the Emerald City. And this is the part that really confuses me. So one, we've already abridged the story of Dorothy Gale meeting her friends, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. And I think that's like a significant part of the movie. I think that's probably the bulk of what people remember are those initial lovable character intros, and they're just gone. Then when we actually make it to the Emerald City, the vignettes on the board are distributed very strangely and further confuse me with the story, because if you choose the more difficult path, which is along this center route right here, it cuts across the map. See, the map sort of weaves in a bunch of S-curves, and right here it just cuts right across, and you miss that whole third of the map. But this is where you have all the setbacks. Now, what's funny is this is the one time where they depict the Wizard of Oz, and he's significantly different than he's shown in the film. Now he's a floating head over this grand armchair, which is kind of odd. I don't know why they couldn't have painted him to look more like he did in the film when everything else is clearly lifted from the film in this imagery. But also, the more difficult path seems to be when Dorothy bypasses confronting the witch, and she also misses out on her positive interactions with the wizard. So, and even furthermore, it just basically cuts across to the step where Glinda tells her that she had the power to go home the whole time by clicking her heels. So if you take the longer, safer route, as they put it, Dorothy and her friends have to confront the Wicked Witch of the West. Then they uncover the truth about the wizard. He gives them their rewards for their journey, takes off in his hot air balloon, and that's when Glinda says, "Hey, Dorothy, you've had the ruby slippers the whole time. Just click your heels and go home." Just go home, dummy. What are you doing? So the idea that it's a shorter, more difficult path to just somehow steamroll past the Wizard of Oz and just go right over to Glinda and have her go, "Oh yeah, click your heels. Just don't worry about it. Just click them. You got them fancy shoes, girl. Just give them a little clicky click and go home." It just seems very odd. So very little thought went into the actual design of the game, and I actually think what happened is they had, I don't know if this is like concept art or what. This feels like somebody had source art that they were able to just apply to this project, but this source art was not made specifically for this game. It really does look like stuff that was either used in a children's book about the Wizard of Oz, like an illustrated children's book that they just lifted out and placed here. But it also feels really weird how uneconomical they were with the game board space, I guess. Particularly with the lower third, where I'm complaining about in the second act of the movie, where Dorothy is actually meeting with her friends and they're teaming up to go to the Emerald City. That whole portion is very much abridged in favor of having a lot of empty board space between when the cyclone blows the house to Oz. And also, like, look at this whole section here where Dorothy is in the house and they've got the Wicked Witch of the East's feet out here with the ruby slippers. So, I mean, this whole section here really cuts out a lot of story, and we miss out on the friendships that she builds, which I think are iconic. And then we get right into a brief confrontation with the Wicked Witch of the West, and most of the other activity has to do with their interaction with the wizard. So it feels very unbalanced by comparison to the movie. So this is one of those scenarios where right away when you're trying to tell the story with the game, once you start scrutinizing it, you go, there are some key scenes from the film, but you realize that their choices of what to include and what not to include are very strange. Then you get into the actual gameplay itself, and this is a board game for the sake of having a board game in every sense of the word. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than this. I do love that they eliminated dice. That's kind of fun. That's just amusing to me because I don't know if it's a cost-cutting measure. I'm assuming so, because most of everything in here is print product, save for the plastic component of the spinner and the plastic components for the pawns. So I'd be curious to know if this was a cost-cutting measure or not, but it does make sense with the rules to have magic card there. It's just that if you also have magic card spaces on the board, I actually assume that whoever designed this went, play with dice, play with a spinner, whatever you like, it'll work. It just, that's what it feels like. It feels like that level of apathy went into the design. Now, that being said, I still think the game board is very attractive because, I mean, how can you not like bright, colorful oil painting style art of the Wizard of Oz? I mean, this is a classic. So arguably, I'd say the board art itself is worth the price of admission. But if you're playing the game, I can tell you no fun was had at any time when this was being play tested. In fact, I did enjoy while playing this. Mrs. Old Crappy Couch said this game is a perfect example of, it's not about the quality of board game, but the quality of company you have while playing the board game that determines if it's a good time. And I agree heartily. So if you can play Candyland or Chutes and Ladders with a young kid and have a good time, you can certainly play Wizard of Oz. It does have a lot of setbacks, and it is really funny that, I mean, if you choose the difficult route, they're not joking. It's just brutal. Every other space is go back 5, go back 5, go back 10, go back 15, go back to start. Just boom. It's the only place where you just lose all of your progress. So it's very harsh. And what's funny was the first time I played this, I was laughing because I was right at the crossroads, and I spun the spinner. Now my choice was either go back 5 or go ahead here. And I'm like, well, that's not even a choice. Your odds are, if you're spinning to go across this little crossroads here and make your decision, the vast majority of the time, the first thing you're going to land on is go back 5 if you take the harder space. So nobody's going to actually make that choice. So again, there's no real strategy. I mean, you can make a really dumb choice and it's a huge gamble and you might get a payoff. But I would be surprised to see anybody actually take the difficult route, because every time anybody looks at that decision, they just go, yeah, no, there's no point. There's no point. But otherwise, the amount of moves being limited to 4 spaces, and I did not count how many spaces. I do not care how many spaces are on this board. There are a lot of them, and getting through a game took a while. This was easily this was a solid 20-minute game, but for what it is, it felt tedious. I mean, we were really back and forthing it after a while. At first, we were kind of laughing and talking and having a good time and admiring the art. And after a while, I can say that if I'm comparing this to Candyland or Chutes and Ladders, 100% I'm going to play Candyland. I actually very much enjoyed the gameplay of Candyland significantly more than the Wizard of Oz storybook game. But if you're a big fan of the subject matter, and this is great art, this is a fun game if you're just looking for a neat little curiosity that's appropriate for all ages. So as a collector item, I think the Wizard of Oz by Cadaco is a worthwhile purchase. For gameplay, there are better, more economic choices that you can make. I would highly recommend shooting for Candyland or Chutes and Ladders rather than hunting this down if you're not interested in the art. Because if you're just looking for gameplay, they're very similar experiences that are going to be good for the age that this is intended for. But honestly, I like the aesthetic of this enough that I'm really considering if I want to frame this. I think this would look magnificent on a wall, because I mean, it's right away you can kind of see nobody's going to have a huge draw to want to play this, but you can definitely take some time and pore over this art and really appreciate it for what it is. So art-wise, great game. So I guess I put it to you. What do you think of what you've seen? Do you like the Wizard of Oz classic storybook game by Cadaco? What are your opinions? Have you played any other similar movie cash-in games that might not have been great games, but had great art and were fun for you because you were a fan? Comment below, let me know. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.